So I'm going to show you a little bit about how charcoal can be used. My composition is actually sort of in about there. It's about as close as I can get on the screen. But I'm going to switch over so that you can see the drawing I'm working on. Okay. Trying to get as much of it on screen as I can there. There you go. Can you kind of see the Spider-Man figure is over here? Yeah? That big shape is my mannequin head. So there's a little vase right over here. The grapes are over here. There's a little peach sitting on this box right here. So all I've done is kind of put in the major contours, the major lines. I'm now taking charcoal, just a piece of compressed charcoal. I did these basic lines with charcoal pencil, but now I'm going to go in and start working on adding in some shadow here. This is the jaw underneath the mannequin's chin. I can blend it with my finger. I can add layers to it to make areas darker. But if I concentrate on some of those positive and negative areas, see how the lips are starting to come out? Relatively quickly. Now, I've probably got his face too dark. The shadows are a lot different once I turn the lights off for the video than how they look as I was drawing. So I'm going to lighten up a little bit on his inside of his nose. This is sort of the edge of the nose back down to the cheek. We definitely could use a little lightening there. Now maybe I want to add some dark to the shadow underneath the chin to make that a little more distinctive. Now I'm going to play around with the shadow behind his head for a second. See how that starts to bring his shape out against the ground behind him? We can also then think about things that are a little simpler to draw, like the vase. In this lighting right now, there's a fair amount of shadow on this side, even though the light is coming from my left. I can use the eraser to help me kind of shape the marks that I'm making. I can add marks on top of what I've just drawn. I can blend it. Now maybe that's a little bit darker than I want, so check this out. This is my kneaded eraser. The ones that have been used before have some charcoal kind of embedded in them, so they're a little darker than this, but they look kind of like wads of gray chewing gum, kind of gross, right? But the idea of this tool is really that it's super malleable. It can be formed into different arrangements. So I can pinch it until I have an area that comes to a point. So I can go in and do really small, delicate erasing marks there in the chin. Or I can spread it out. Did you guys ever have silly putty? Is that still a thing? You've heard of it? Okay. I can spread it out like a pancake. Let's say that this area that I've drawn here is too dark, but I like the contours, I like the lines. If I take my little pancake of kneaded eraser and I'm mashing on it, I'm pressing it in, but I'm not scrubbing it back and forth. I'm just pushing down on it, right? Watch what happens when I peel that up. See how much lighter that area is? I can lighten things without smudging my line work. I can very easily alter the value of this whole space through simple press and lift. So while you're working on this project, think about the space in between the objects. Think about the cast shadows. There's a really deep shadow beside that vase leading into the fabric next to it. Let's try dealing with a little bit of the fabric itself. How about that? I'm going to go up a little. Okay. I want to work on the folds of the fabric right behind the Spider-Man figurine. So there's a big triangle of a fold this way, a triangle that comes down that way, and one right behind that. Now with value in the drapery, the shadows are almost always darkest in the deepest part of the fold. And the deepest part of one fold is usually right next to the highlight on the subsequent fold. So right in here, there's a really dark value in the deepest recessed area of that fabric. But it becomes a very bright highlight on its peak. And if I finesse it a little bit with the eraser, do you see how that starts to have some curvature? That starts to look fairly three-dimensional. The next fold below it also has its darkest part on the inside of the fold, the deepest area. But it starts to fade to a lighter value as it goes up this curve toward the next peak. I'm leaving a little space for his arm. This folded fabric goes right behind the figure. There should be a bright highlight on this fold right next to that. And then it starts to have a little bit of a shadow here. This one is not quite as dark. There's another little fold sneaking in there. This area directly behind his head is pretty dark in that area of the fabric, and if I lay that in, I think you'll be able to see several folds of value now are pretty clear. So you notice I'm putting it in, taking it out, adding, subtracting a little bit as I go. That starts to look pretty three-dimensional, don't you think? Fairly quickly. Now, what's really missing? There's not a ton of detail yet, right? How frustrating would it be if you went in and did like all the little lines in the Spider-Man costume and then had to go in and add the value in between those little marks, right? So save the detail toward the end. Try to think about the larger areas, the bigger masses of light and dark. Remember that the charcoal is very forgiving. It will respond to the eraser. So in this project especially, your eraser is probably as important a tool for you as the compressed charcoal. So let's do this one with our compressed charcoal. There are tons of erasers and charcoal right over here. I'm going to erase the lights here. I have charcoal pencils for when we get to the detail elements. There are kneaded erasers in here. There are the design white plastic erasers. There are some that are still good that have been used in this funny little canister. There's tons of compressed charcoal right here. It will make your hands messy. So if you want, there are gloves here. So I've got medium and large, and if we need them, I have some smalls in my office. If you're you're worried about getting your clothes dirty, there are smocks right over here in the corner by the door. Everybody good? Cool, okay. And help each other out before you leave the room. I'm really bad about touching my face all the time, probably from pushing glasses up. But if you notice somebody has a big charcoal smudge on their face, let them know so they don't walk into their next class looking like they just came out of a coal mine.
I'm sorry for not having that good reference picture, so I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness, I almost blocked that out. That was traumatic to me too. I was so sure that I had taken those. I swore up and down to you. I was like, oh, no, I took one. No, I didn't. If I did, I deleted them. This soap is really good for getting oil-based things or grease-based things off of you, but there is a little water in the line here. There we go. That's better. Well, that feels better. Now, the proportions on the mannequin for y'all. The one on that side is too narrow and tall for normal. Y'all's is a weird proportion this way. It's way wider from the back of the skull to the front of the forehead. And technically, there's more forehead, really, than there should be. Your eyes are always roughly 50% of the height of your skull. If you look at this measurement here from chin to eye, notice the top of the skull is like way over the top. So be careful about accidentally correcting her, making her look normal, which will make her look weak. It is out of proportion.